So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Liz Boyle, as Christina mentioned, and I help lead our consumer goods and services practice at Maru Matchbox. My background is actually in psychology, and I have been applying that to consumer and shopper insights for the past 20 years, which seems like a lot. Today, I'm here presenting because I'd like to share with you one of our latest developments at Maru, an approach to innovation testing that we feel really surpasses tools of the past, not just in the depth of understanding it provides, but in how applicable and relevant it is even in today's extremely tumultuous and ever-evolving consumer landscape. So I think many of us recognize that successfully developing and launching new innovation is not easy. And new product innovation has never been more challenging than it is today, or more needed and more important. We know from our COVID tracker and other data that consumer sentiment, their outlook on the future, their engagement with various products and services is evolving, honestly, week by week, and with no real signs of returning back to anything we knew before. Some might say the consumer behavior landscape is forever changed, and in that case, we as researchers must adjust, must evolve. And when you stop and think about it, we really can't rely on the attitudinal tools of the past to understand which innovations will meet consumers' emotional and functional needs in this new future. Thankfully, we've got just the tool for the job. So in this session, I'll walk you through our thinking behind our concept connections approach. I'll explain the details of how we collect and analyze our data, and how this tool will continue to be helpful as our future evolves. With concept connections, we obtain real-time insights and deep understanding of consumer needs. These richer insights enable us to consult and better guide our clients with greater confidence. Okay, so let's start with the thinking behind our approach. In case you're less familiar with Maru Matchbox, I'll take just a minute to share more about us as a company. We are a research consultancy focused on behavioral science, and specifically the intersection between behavior and emotion. All the research that we do is based on a feel, behave, think framework, which we'll talk about a little bit more. As an organization, we operate in an innovation-based culture with teams of seasoned insights professionals aligned by sector expertise, and we get to work together leveraging a really powerful tech-based platform, Maru Hub. From a researcher's perspective, it's really the fun part. We have a breadth of tools in the toolkit that allow us to seamlessly integrate System 1-based methodologies along with traditional ones, really creating a comprehensive and dynamic approach to our research, kind of like a researcher's playground. Innovation research has historically captured the think aspect of the framework quite well. As a research community, we have entire companies and research practices built around trying to predict consumer behavior from what people think about a given concept. We all know the say-do gap exists. People regularly tell us they're going to buy a product and then don't the next time they go to the store for a whole host of reasons. Now, consumer emotion is more difficult to measure, and yet we know that our emotions are primary drivers of our behavior. With our Concept Connections tool, we now have a way to assess innovation potential across the think, feel, and behave framework. And that's what I'll be walking you through today. Okay. So our think, feel, behave framework is the backbone to Concept Connections. We start with think, capturing performance indicators using System 2, rational, and attitudinal response. So these are the measures you're used to seeing in typical concept tests. Don't worry, we aren't taking away anyone's beloved purchase intent measure. We're just building upon it. So for the behave portion, we've set up choice trade-offs in a max-diff design to essentially watch the consumer decision process. We can then determine the value consumers place across product attributes based on how they choose. This mimics the real-life choice trade-offs we all make every day. And since we're using a max-diff design, we can better stratify the data, teasing apart which components really matter to drive choice versus those that are more table stakes. And then finally, we go beneath the surface and capture how consumers feel through our System 1 approaches, implicit association testing, or IAT, and brand emotion. Now, before we dive further into each module, it's important for you to know that the term concept in concept connections is actually quite broad. This approach can be used to assess early stage ideas with just a simple text description, all the way to finished agency creative. Because we are, sorry, just a thing that popped up. Because we're evaluating the concept against what consumers' underlying needs and values are today, at the time of the survey, it's valid across markets and across categories. The anchor point is in the survey, so it's really all about setting the context for the respondent and then triangulating across our think, feel, behave measures to truly understand the potential of a budding idea for something totally new or a fully developed product that we're hoping is ready to launch. So let's take a closer look. For me, it's always helpful to understand new methods by first walking through the respondent experience and how the data is collected, and then thinking through how the data is analyzed and applied. So let's start with a collection. This is a point-in-time survey collected via mobile or desktop in just under 15 minutes. We have 4 main modules that you can see color-coded here. After basic screening, we expose the concept, again in whatever form, text, image, and then collect the traditional KPIs. Appeal, uniqueness, relevance. Second, we bring them through a max-diff exercise where we show all of the concept or product attributes, rotated in groups of 4 to assess which are most relevant and least relevant. So is 5% cashback more important, or no interest financing for up to 6 months? The next module is brand emotion, which my colleague Rich Durante shared in more detail in the last webinar. Brand emotion is our visual semiotics tool. The basic premise here is that each of us consciously or unconsciously associate the visual elements of an image with different emotions. So we ask respondents to create a collage-like compilation of pre-coded images to explain the way they feel about the concept. And then we do this again for their category ideal. Our brand emotion tool is incredibly powerful. It leverages a database built from over 9,000 images. That's over 25 years in the making. It actually originated in the field of psychology as a communication aid for nonverbal autistic children. It's been further developed over the years, digitized and validated in over 50 countries to be used beyond psychology and into the world of marketing. Finally, we have IAT, or implicit association testing, and here we take the same product attributes from the max-diff and have respondents evaluate them in a timed drag-and-drop exercise to quickly sort them, revealing both their explicit and implicit associations with the concept. For example, is this concept considered a good value? And if so, is it a no-brainer, gut reaction, or something that takes more careful thought and deliberation? While the think metrics are pretty straightforward, let's take just a minute to look at the feel and behave modules. So they are interactive, they're engaging, are honestly pretty fun, and add minimal time to the survey. We use drag and drop for the max-diff and IAT exercise, and the image library within brand emotion is actually super easy to scroll and select to create your visual collage. So what's really impactful about concept connections is how we bring it all together in the analysis. By measuring elements across think, feel, and behave in the framework, we can not only understand what performance looks like for a given concept, like if it has high appeal or uniqueness, but also why, and not just what consumers say is the reason why. Rather than relying on post-rationalized explanations of why consumers say they will or won't buy a new product, which, let's be honest, is often just respondents parroting back the concept messaging, we're able to go beneath the surface to get those unconscious drivers of resonance for the concept. So let's say you test 2 different messages for a given product, and the scalar metrics are pretty much at parity with slightly higher appeal for one of them. Without really understanding the why behind that marginal performance difference, the business could be taking on risk. Knowing the emotional signature of the concept and how it implicitly connects with consumers can make all the difference. You can move forward knowing exactly what levers to pull for optimization and which not to touch. So let's talk a bit more about how we are able to analyze and apply the System 1 and System 2 data that we've collected. So we have a really powerful and practical framework that we leverage to understand the intersection of behavior and emotion. By taking the choice-based data we have on attribute importance and crossing it with how strongly and implicitly those attributes are associated with the concept, we're able to map what's really important to success in the category and how well the concept is implicitly associated with those attributes. For example, yes, maybe you're strong on attribute A, but maybe nobody even cares about that right now. What's more exciting is that you're delivering on attribute C, which is what consumers really need in this space right now. This can make a huge difference when developing the product, know what's a need to have versus a nice to have. So let's talk about how we apply the brand emotion data we collect. Now, I won't go into all the details of how we arrive at the concept signatures pictured here, but I do want to share the application of the analysis at a high level. So as I touched on earlier, we're essentially using visual semiotics to analyze the group of images consumers choose to reflect their perceptions of the concept, the emotions that it evokes. Collectively, this creates a signature of emotions that come through or resonate strongest, and we can then compare that to the concept ideal, which remember they also completed in the exercise. This visual here is a bit simplified. Each signature actually has primary, secondary, and tertiary characteristics that map in various strengths across these 9 segments. This lets us see if the concepts tested are resonating emotionally on the requirements of success in the category. So what does this need to be able to connect on to be successful? In this case, confidence, authority, and satisfaction. Remember, this is done at the system 1 level, so we're learning directions of resonance for the concept that respondents are likely not able to articulate. Yet, we know they have a profound impact on the brands and products that they choose. In this example, we see that concepts 1 and 2 are very similar, and they have similar emotional signatures, and actually were positioned pretty similarly. Unlike concept 3, both of these concepts come quite close to the category ideal and would just need to better connect on satisfaction for optimal resonance. So I've walked you through the thinking behind the approach and the path to obtaining and analyzing the data across our Think, Feel, Behave framework. And that helps us really get to that deep understanding of the what and the why of that innovation performance. But how does our concept connections approach bolster our clients' chances for success in this COVID era, ever-evolving new future? For starters, flexibility. It's applicable across any category, any market, and throughout the innovation funnel. It's also modular. In that last example, we could test an optimized version of the winning concept just on brand emotion to see if the new positioning is able to successfully tap into that satisfaction element. Second, it provides comprehensive understanding across Think, Feel, and Behave. Emotions have historically been pretty difficult to capture through traditional approaches, especially quantitatively, but we can now leverage visual semiotics to reveal how people really feel through emotional associations, which provides an enormous amount of confidence to make important business decisions. And finally, future-proof insights. Our framework doesn't rely on historical databases or benchmark performance against past concepts, which at this point are from kind of a different consumer landscape. Instead, it's anchored in the context of today, in how a new innovation meets the needs of consumers right now. And so the framework maintains its relevancy, whatever the new future holds. Thank you. Christina, you might be on mute.
How about now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. We do have a couple of questions from the audience, so I'm just going to pull those up real quick. The first one is, in the brand emotion module, is the concept always asked before the category, and if so, why?
Oh, that's a good question. So I can see how you might think kind of category is more broad, and oftentimes in survey design, we sort of start more broad and then we go more specific. For concept connections, one of the things that was really important to us was to maintain a module that's very familiar, like the Think module that starts with concept exposure and goes right into those KPIs that a lot of our clients are really familiar with and have sort of built some stage gates in their organizations around. So we really wanted to start with the concept and keep that the same and show the concept, move into those KPIs, and focus on that kind of gut reaction to concept performance before kind of stepping back and thinking about category as a whole and what that ideal is. So it actually is very purposeful to start with the concept and be kind of dialed into that throughout those first few modules, and then to kind of step back in brand emotion and ask about the category ideal to see where that connect or disconnect might be.
Okay. One more. Second question is, need a minimum number of concepts to run the test, and is this mainly for new to the world product innovation?
Good question. So it is a monadic test, so there actually isn't a minimum or a maximum. And it could be any kind of concept. So we've actually had this type of question come up before with some of our clients, and it can be for anything. So anything that someone might be trying to decide if they're going to buy, any kind of marketing information that you'd be putting in front of them. We mentioned that could be simple text, more complex concepts, but it can also be across anything. This could be for a washing machine. This could be for the new Trolls movie. And then also something to keep in mind is that, yes, these are kind of module components that work together to create brand or concept connections, but we have clients all the time break things apart. You can use brand emotion for something totally unrelated to a new product or service that you're launching. It can just be used to better understand how your brand itself resonates.
Okay, great, thank you. And last one is, you mentioned that there were 9,000 unique images in the visual semiotics methodology. How does a respondent choose from 9,000 images?
Very good question. The batch of images that respondents can choose from in the exercise is not actually the full 9,000. It's a truncated version that's sort of strategically selected to represent all of the facets across the 9 segments. But there still are hundreds in there that the consumers can look through. It's just not apparent to them how many images are sort of behind the engine. They're scrolling as they go. They're kind of strategically organized in terms of randomization, and then they're just selecting from the images that they see. They can go through a little, they can go through a lot, and that doesn't impact the analysis.
Excellent. Liz, thank you for sharing all that with us. I think that's all the audience questions so far. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next set of speakers.